we went through it last week. What it is, we did get through constants and forces. Remember, there's 4 forces in the universe, that's it. And in the book, there's a lot of detail on what they are and how they operate. Today, we're gonna go from the universe to the Milky Way galaxy that we're in, to the solar system that we're in, to Earth itself. So when you think about what we're dealing with here, you have this vast universe, and Earth is down here as just one planet, ended up in a solar system. We're going to take a look at that. We're going to get to know Jim Carrey better today. A lot of fun. Then we're going to get into 2 or 3 little videos, okay? So here's how I'd like to start. I'd like to start by reading Psalm 19. So today, think of it this way. We're going to learn Psalm 19. I don't think there's a more powerful psalm that points to why we need to repent. This is a psalm that ties science with philosophy and theology, puts it all in one psalm. So if you guys turn to Psalm 19, we started it last week, and we'll just go through it this week. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. Day unto day utters speech, and night unto night reveals knowledge. There's no speech nor language where his voice is not heard. Their line has gone out to all the world, all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. So that's where we ended up last week. And we dug into that. Then here's where it gets pretty interesting. In them, the heavens, he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoicing like a strong man to run its race. Its rising is from one end of heaven and its circuit to the other end, and nothing is hidden from its heat. Okay, so a little hint. Malachi 4:2 says, and in him the Son, capital S, UN, of righteousness, with healing in his wings. It's not Son, O-U-N, or S-O-N. It's Son, S-U-N. And this capital S Son has healing in his wings. So here you have God saying, he set in the heavens a tabernacle for the sun, which is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. Who's the bridegroom? All through the New Testament, what is he called? We're the bride, he's the bridegroom. So this Son, capital S-U-N in Malachi, has a tabernacle in heaven, who's the physical Son, like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber. Any idea what that's the picture of? What chamber was Christ put in when he died? Here he's rising out of his tomb. What is this a picture of? This is a resurrection. And rejoicing like a strong man to run his race. This is Hebrews. For the race that was set before him. Right? It's the joy set before him to endure the cross. You have him rising in the resurrection. You have him proceeding to the cross as the sun moves across the heavens every day. And then it says, his rising is from one end of heaven and his circuit to the other. We're going to look at a verse in Psalm. You know what this is every single day? Here's another example. Every day the sun comes up, it's Christ's resurrection. Every day the sun moves through the heavens. It's a picture of him as he marches to the cross. And then the sun goes down over the horizon. That's him coming back the second time. Is this not the coolest thing going on? The Psalms are full of this stuff. So you have in Psalm 19, nothing hidden from his heat. Now all of a sudden something happens. We leave the heavens that are the glory of God and the firmament. We leave the sun as a picture of Jesus Christ. And all of a sudden we're into the law, the Bible. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. What the heck just happened? David's writing a psalm. His first 6 verses are all about the evidence that God has put in creation and in the universe to point to himself and his Son. And now, boom, All of a sudden, I'm into the Bible. Gets worse. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise and simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. More are they to be desired than gold, yes, than fine gold, and sweeter than the honey on the honeycomb. Moreover, by them your servant is warned, and in keeping them there is great reward. He just gave a description, 7, perfect number 7, 7 descriptions of the Bible and what it can do in your life. Then he does it to us again. He switches gears. Who can understand his errors? Plenty of secret faults. Keep back your servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then I shall be blameless and innocent of great transgression. Here's what's happening. This is what the normal person with an open mind, this is how I came to the Lord. You look at everything, verses 1 to 6. This can't be natural. It draws you. It doesn't matter where you live, what language you speak, who you are. From a general revelation, there must be a God, to a specific revelation, the Bible. The law of the Lord is perfect. We've taken the law out of America. The 10 Commandments aren't here anymore. People actually don't think murder's that big a deal if it's situational, if it works for me. Maybe even out of the womb. We got a law in the government right now. Right now in Congress, we want to try to pass an act called the Protection of the Baby Act. If it's born alive, you can't kill it. Do you really think we need a law for that? So you have verses 7 through 13, 7 through 12, 11, about the Bible. You went from creation general to specific. And guess what happens when you read the Bible? It's called conviction. Here comes verse 12. Who can understand his errors? Cleanse me of secret faults. Right? Keep your word hidden in my heart that I may not sin against you. Right? In the Psalms. So here's what you have going on. David is taking you from the science of the universe to the necessity of reading the Bible to understand it, which then convicts you, to then a plea for mercy. In the rest of the Psalm 19, by his grace and mercy, you be forgiven for your sin. In one psalm. This is insane. If there's ever a psalm to memorize, it's this one. Let the word, the final verse, let the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, my strength and my redeemer. Remember we said that verse in 2 Chronicles 16:9? The eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on behalf of those whose heart is loyal to him. This is why David was beloved of God. This last verse is another example in Psalm 19. O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. The Lord shows himself strong in David's life because David's heart is loyal to him. Not because David did everything right, not because David didn't do some heinous things, but because David fell on the grace and mercy of God. This makes sense? This is the beauty of the Bible, seeing all these evidences, knowing it's pointing to his son. Okay. Let's get started. This is what people are going to tell you, what I'm about to show you. This is what they're going to say to you about why there can't be a God. So watch this. Okay, here you are in the universe. There's 100 billion galaxies, and life is found in just one. So far, so good? And that galaxy, the Milky Way, has 300 billion stars. And life is found with just one, the sun. So you have 100 billion galaxies, and each galaxy has at least 300 billion stars, and it's just this one place where there's life. And the solar system has over 40 billion planets. Life is found in just one, Earth. And Earth has over 6 billion people, including you. So you're really not that significant. You're not special. You're a nobody.
You are somebody to God.
Huh?
You are somebody.
That's because you've been brainwashed by your pastor into thinking you're special. You're arrogant to think you're important.
He says that.
Right. That's what I mean. You follow this
God says that.
voodoo spaghetti monster you've never seen,
God says
and this God who says, don't worry, of all the other people in the world, you're special. You see why we have a problem in this country? This arrogance of Christianity. Instead of being inclusive, let everybody in, open borders, because everybody's special, everybody's important. Why do you Christians keep saying you're so important, and now you don't want people to come in? That's just more arrogance. So let's watch my buddy here.
From the upcoming film True Crimes, please welcome two-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. Thank you. I am two-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. You know, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not just a guy going to sleep. I'm two-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey going to get some well-needed shut-eye. And when I dream, I don't just dream any old dream. No, sir. I dream about being three-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey. Because then I would be enough. It would finally be true. And I could stop this terrible search. For what I know ultimately won't fulfill me. But these are important, these awards. I don't want you to think that just because if you blew up our solar system alone, you wouldn't be able to find us or any of human history with the naked eye. But from our perspective, this is huge. One more time, here are the nominees for Best Motion Picture Comedy.
He's an atheist.
The Big Short.
So he's inadvertently just making fun of us. Right. So, does he have a point? Now, a lot of kids or teenagers, young adolescents, or even adults would probably, if they don't think very much about this, would probably agree with him. People come and go on this earth constantly, right? People are being born and dying every day. And you don't remember, most people, even your loved ones over time, you forget. Most of us can't remember who won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, right? I mean, things are just constantly changing and people are passing on. So this is America, what he just talked about. That's how we think. Get as much as you can while you're alive. Do you agree? Okay. So what I'd like to do, because I think it's important we dig a little deeper. In your book, this is lesson 3.2, and I'd like you to turn to where Dr. Hugh Ross is on the top, and it's talking about this anthropic principle idea and precise controls. Okay? This is, there it is right there, you got it. This is, we can't read the whole thing because it would take too long, but I would ask you to read this, because it's pretty insightful and it's based on evidence, it's real. Okay. He's a pretty impressive guy, and he starts off by saying the anthropic principle says the universe appears designed for the sake of human life. Okay? And this truth, I'm moving down a little bit, applies not only to the cosmos as a whole, but also to the galaxy, planetary system, and the planet humans occupy. So in other words, it's not like just some discoveries we found on Earth. The cosmologists, astrophysicists, physicists, they're finding it everywhere in the universe, this idea of precision just so we can live. And it's razor's edge precision everywhere. It's large scale and small scale. So if you look at the paragraph that says in 1961, you see that one? So think about that. That's only 55, 60 years ago, right? So it's recent. So this isn't that old of a concept, but it's not taught, again, I'll say. They only found 2 characteristics of the universe that were fine-tuned. And then he explains them. Today, and this article is 2002, the number is at 38. Today, the number is 120 in 2019. What's happening is the deeper they study, the more they're finding precise individual, they're not related at all, totally arbitrary variables that have to have a specific number or we can't live. Okay? Evidence, that red, it says in red, of preparation for human existence shows up in the solar system. By 2001, they've identified 150 characteristics of our solar system. Do you guys remember what I mean by fine-tuned variables? Remember what I mean by that? Things can be precise but off target. I can look at a pattern, somebody shooting arrows at a target and go, wow, they're really good, but they're about a foot away from the target. That's not tuning. There has to be a standard at which the precision relates. If all those arrows were in the center, that would be finely tuned. Because you have to have a standard to hit, and then you have to hit it all the time. So think about what I'm saying. You live this way constantly. Everybody lives with standards, right? Speed limit signs are standards. We're not finely tuned about speed limit signs, are we? Why not? Aren't there laws? Aren't there laws for being tuned around a speed limit? Then why aren't we? Why aren't we? Why when the cops out there with radar going, it's like, this is awesome. People are like plus or minus 1 mile per hour around 55. Why is that not happening? People aren't watching. We don't want to. Our speedometer's broken. I wasn't, you can name variables, right? I can name all these variables that are impacting our ability to remain precise. So though we have laws, we don't obey them. How's it possible the universe obeys laws? Just stop and think a minute. How is it possible the universe obeys all the time with a precision way more than plus or minus 1 mile per hour? Someone has to control it. There's an easy way we could design cars that would always meet a speed limit as it came into an area. All you would have to do is put in governors that would be preset in a state for certain areas for speed limits so that every time you approached it, it would stop and go that speed limit, it would speed up again. We could do that. That would be called design. There'd be a designer. Why does the universe do that? Because someone has set the dials for everything to operate that way. Why is that not an obvious conclusion?
Maybe it is, but it's rejected.
It's more than rejected. Well, we're actually attacked. We're getting attacked. So this is where you say, well, time out. Please explain to me the universal expansion rate, 10 to the 120th power. How does that stay so good? You're a smart guy and I'm stupid, so please explain that to me. Okay, so the revolt against a revolution. So here's why this has happened. This has never been taught in schools and we still follow the Copernican principle. This is the problem that's really happening, is lack of education. The Copernican principle came from what was true where back in Middle Ages, the church taught that humanity was at the center of the universe. That's what they taught. Copernicus, being a smart guy, scientific, demonstrated actually the sun is. It's heliocentric. And well, how do you think the church reacted to that? They would kill him, right? You'd be amazed at how many problems in our world are caused by the church, right? And we keep getting blamed for them, right? A common attack of a non-believer or a progressive is religion is what hurts people. Crusades, the witch trials, you name it. I mean, you can just keep piling it on us, right? All of which aren't true. That could be a really good discussion to have. But what came out of that, the Copernican principle that was taught in schools, is called the mediocrity principle. You just heard a flavor of it from Jim Carrey. It's explained for you in this book. The mediocrity principle asserts that humanity is not special in any way and that human origin and development have likely been duplicated on billions of other sites throughout the cosmos. So they took the Copernican principle, said, you know what, it's obvious, we're not special, come on. And you know what, we're randomly lucky to be here. So just have SETI out there, right? And sure enough, at some point we'll find more life and we'll just prove to you that you're not special because it's everywhere. Well, the problem that came up is the anthropic principle says actually we've never found life anywhere else. And what's unique and special about man is not spatial centrality, but it has to do with the life requirements. What's special about Earth, because based on our position, if it wasn't the way it is, we wouldn't be special, we wouldn't be alive. So what's happened is actually there is no such thing as any galaxy, star, planet, anything being in the center of the universe. There is none. There is no center to the universe. So we look at now what we have with the anthropic principle and with fine-tuning, and what we find out is more and more scientists, without a doubt, acknowledge the fact that we are in a very, very special and privileged location. And if you look on the next page over there, under cosmic anticipation, Paul Davies, who's an agnostic, says, there's today, no physicist or astronomer has researched this question, denies that the universe, the Milky Way galaxy, and the solar system possess compelling hallmarks of intentional design for human life. This is recognized in the scientific community. They know it. They know this.
Do they call that the Goldilocks zone?
Yeah, you're going to see that in a minute. And that has to do with two things that are happening, a correlation circle and CHZ, a circumstellar habitual zone that relates to our solar system. I'm going to talk about those in a minute. But then he explains how it's really the Christ connection. It's really about this designer and who he is. We're in Psalm 19, guys. We've just gone from the heaven before the glory of God, the firmament shows his handiworks, the tabernacle for the sun, to general specific revelation with the Bible. We are on solid ground for holding to the Bible as the best explanation for what we're seeing in the universe. You guys okay? All right, and we're just getting started. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to start with Psalm 8. And Psalm 8 is awesome too. David does this constantly throughout the Psalms. Psalm 8 in your book is drilled in right after, in the start of lesson 3.3. Here's what it says. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you've ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, or the son of man that you visited? So what does it sound like he just said? He sounds like Jim Carrey, doesn't he? A little bit? When I take a look at the heavens and everything, what am I? Why would you even bother with me? Why would you even care about me? But then he ends it and says, but you've made us a little lower than the angels and crowned us. This is the unique part of this verse. Crowned us with glory and honor. It's the only time you'll find in the Bible where God gives glory to man. Right here, he is crowning mankind with glory and honor. This is pretty awesome stuff. Heavens, same word as Psalm 19:1, same word as Genesis 1:1, Shemayim, has to do with space-time mass, the entire universe as a whole. Work, activity, handiwork. This is God actually being active in the universe. Ordain means literally to set or fix in place. Mindful. Here's what he's saying. What am I that you even think about me? Think about that. He's saying, I don't even understand why you bother thinking about me. But this is what I love. When we see the word visit, what we think of, well, you know, once in a while you pop in and say hi to me, right? That's the way we think of it in Western culture. That's not what the Hebrew means. It means literally to oversee all the time, constantly overseeing me. You're constantly paying attention with me. What am I that you would do that? Right? This is pretty awesome stuff. And here's what he says. Oh yeah, I remember why you did it. Because you have that level of honor and glory that you've put on me. This is the sad part of communism and socialism. And if you ever, what do we call, Philadelphia has this bell. What do we call it? Liberty Bell. Isn't it called the Equality Bell? Isn't that the name of it? What is the big push in socialism right now in our country? Equality, not liberty. They're replacing liberty with equality. Since we're all equal, you know what that means? If you make more money than someone else, you're unequal to that person. That's not right. We need to take from you and make it equal for everyone. What does liberty mean? Opportunity. What else does it mean?
Freedom.
Freedom. What's the big deal with freedom? Okay, yeah. Yeah. You know what freedom, you know what liberty gives? Dignity. You know what the problem is in countries like China and Russia? The individual has no dignity. You are not allowed to be who you want to be. That's not part of who you are. That is crushed. That's North Korea. Richard Dawkins calls God a celestial dictator. Really? He's the one who gives liberty. On the Liberty Bell is a verse from Leviticus. Let liberty reign, right? So what we have here is an example of why God oversees us and cares for us so much. It's because he has bestowed on us the dignity of free will to live life in liberty, not equality. The Declaration of Independence might say all have been created equal. That doesn't mean everybody has equal gifts, right? I mean, we pay shortstops. I mean, look at what's his name? Machado, $300 million? $350 million to play baseball. And you have school teachers that are gonna make less than he makes every 30 seconds, right? It's because we have a system that rewards whatever it is that we find valuable. So people aren't equal. I can't hit a baseball like Muchacho. What's his name? Manny Machado. I can't do that. I'm not equal with him in baseball. But what am I equal with him in? Who I am before God. Okay? I'm completely equal. Now, in an article I wrote a week ago, I told you about in the paper how PETA wants to put a sign up to commemorate the death of 4,500 lobsters in Maine that were killed in a truck accident. Those poor lobsters, you know, it's not fair that they're dead because PETA thinks man and animal are the same. They're equal. This is our nation, guys. This is where we're going.
Actually more towards the animal.
That's actually the church's fault, a lot of that too.
I tell you, what on earth is not exciting about Jesus Christ and saying to someone, really? Are you serious? I'll tell you what, I'll eat a lobster just to show you that there's no equality. And why is this not common sense that we are more valuable than animals? Is it not? I mean,
Should be. Why can we kill a baby that, and debate whether it's murder if the baby's born to get lobster?
Right.
Or to kill a sea turtle, you know?
Yeah. Things are getting out of hand. They're going so extreme that it's going to force us. It's going to force a revival, I think. I don't think revival is going to come, and this, are we filming? Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll say it anyways. I don't think revival will just come by the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's going to anoint churches and we want. I think we're going to get persecuted. I think it's going to get to the point where we've had enough. Yes, we've had enough. And some of us, somebody's going to stand up and say, is this not the stupidest thing you've ever heard? Don't you think the Ten Commandments make more sense than what's going on here? And we're going to start standing up for Christ because we won't have a choice. We're going to have to. Right? So where does God get? Where do we get it from that he crowned us with glory and honor? Where's that? Where can you think biblically that started? Huh?
Well, when you first with Adam, and then he messed up, and then it went down to Moses and everything.
Yeah, remember in Genesis at the very beginning when God, plural, Elohim, same as Shamayim, plural for space-time universe, it's a plural word. So we have the Trinity saying, let us make rhinos in our image, right? Who did he say to make in his image? Right. So first he says, I want to make man in our image. But then he says something amazing. I want you to fill the earth and subdue it. And I want you to have dominion. Now, how many people on a job would say, you know, I got an employee, he's not very bright, makes a lot of mistakes. I got an idea. We'll give him control whenever I'm not in the building.
That happens.
But we would think that's not common sense, wouldn't we? That's silly. So why does God do it with man? Why didn't he say, wait a minute, lions, hey, they're the king of Africa. You know what? Maybe we'll put lions in charge. Why does he put man in charge?
He did him in his image.
Man in his image. Crown him with glory and honor. He doesn't crown zebras or cats, although they think they are. He doesn't crown them. This is a big deal. See, when you speak this way at KU, right, what would they say to you? Think you're silly, right? They're the ones silly. They're not thinking through this. We have a universe design we're going to look at. All these things are happening. Even agnostics, non-believers are saying, hey, looks to me like it's designed, and the person designing it is telling you in the Bible, I did it for you, and more than that, I expect you to be managing this. And you don't give management of your business to someone you don't trust, who can do it. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who sees this. To me, this is intuitively obvious of why the Christian worldview makes the most sense of any worldview.
And it's hard to argue with those that don't, because you say, well, prove it, and then you try to go through and do all of this stuff, and they just don't want to listen, and then they get upset, and then you get upset, and then, well, look, you're not a Christian, how can you be any better because you're getting upset and...
But they're poking holes, and so when you, and that's what happened to you. You got bombarded, and they just sat there and beat on you. But the truth is that, and when you're like that, there's nothing to do. I mean, you just kind of clam up, and you're attacked. But they can't just poke holes without you turning around and them being able to prove themselves. Prove to me that God is real or isn't real, and they can't. And that's what he's saying at the beginning. It's a tactic that they use, and they just beat you down and make you feel stupid and it's on behalf like, hey, right, you know, like, look at this guy, you know,
Okay.
but they can't turn around and apply that to their own logic. It falls apart.
So let's think about what we're saying. Let's say tomorrow you find out you have cancer, right? And they tell you you have a few weeks to live. Is the first thought in your mind going to be, wait a minute, I still have to figure out how to prove God exists to my atheist friends? Is that going to be what has your attention? Why not?
It's gonna be, what's my family gonna do? How are they gonna?
Well,
How
what
are they
just
gonna-
happened to your worry over about what other people think? What just happened? Came into clarity, didn't it? All of a sudden, this didn't matter so much. Guys, who cares what people think? Who cares? We live for an audience of one. That's it. The reason this is here is for just one reason. To draw you closer to Him. He put this here. You know how many verses are in the Bible that has to do with non-believers? There's like hardly any. Right? Psalm 14:1, right? The fool said in his heart, there is no God. God just says, this is the way it is. If you think I don't exist, you're a fool. Now let's move on and talk. You know, he doesn't spend a lot of time with that. The whole purpose for what we're doing is you examine yourself and find excitement and joy in knowing this God. That's all. If someone comes to me and attacks me for my wife and says, you know, I saw Joe the other day working over at Bun Cakes, and you know, she's smoking weed in the back with a couple employees. You know, I think I'd be married to that woman. She's like, and she's swearing. You ought to hear her in there. When someone comes in and doesn't like a Bun Cake, she just goes at them. You know, what am I going to say? Oh, I better go examine the evidence. You know, or you know, I better defend my wife. What am I going to say when someone talks? If someone were to do that?
You wouldn't believe it.
Why not?
Because you know.
I know her. What? How well do you know Jesus Christ? It's laid out for you in the Bible. Paul's saying over and over again, you know, I gotta tell you, God's really on you. His wrath is set on you if you see all these things I'm giving you and you suppress it. Because it's really foolish to suppress it. So when people attack us or say these things, it's just like, well, time out, help me understand. Please explain to me your version of the creation of the universe. I would love to hear it. And how do you account for these fine-tuning things? Just please help me. There's no answer for it. The confidence is when you have cancer, when your son leaves the faith, when you lose your job, when all these things happen, what do? Do you rest on the fact that, Lord, you must have something? Do you say, Lord, who are those friends you've given me I can count on that I can get with? Lord, surround me with your presence, right? That's what you do. So believe it or not, these arguments and everything, they very quickly lose their luster the minute you need Him.
But the only way to know that is to know Him.
There you
That's
go.
The hardest part for me to get to people is how did you get to know your wife? Got to know her. How did you get to love her? Got to know your relationship.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, actually, when you read the way God puts it, because nobody does it. And I admit, it's kind of, you've got to really be crazy. Somebody go kill that child. That's right. Proverbs 2, just listen for a minute what this says. Proverbs 2. My son, if you receive my words, treasure my commands within you, so that you incline your ear to wisdom, you apply your heart to understanding, you cry out for discernment. Cry out for discernment. Lift up your voice for understanding. Seek her as silver. Search for her as a hidden treasure. Then you will understand the fear of the Lord. This is not an easy thing. This takes time and effort and a real passion to know Him. And God says, when you have that attitude, you'll know what I'm like. You'll understand me. We'll have a really tight relationship. So, to heck with those people who do that to us. This is what matters, because once you have Him, you've studied and looked at this, if it makes sense, If not, ask questions. This is about asking questions. Once it clicks, oh my gosh, you know how powerful you're going to be for Christ? It's like, yeah, I hear you're mad at me and you think I'm an idiot. That's great. Well, wait a minute, I'm studying this. I was wondering, could you help me understand the fine-tuning with the expansion rate? I'm all ears. Thank you. Yep. What are they going to do? They can just call you another name because they don't have an answer. And God's going to say one day when we're in heaven and we meet him, he's going to say, why do you fear man so much? Why do you worry about them? That makes no sense. Just come spend, why didn't you spend more time with me? Then this would be obvious to you. So, anthropic principle. He has designed this for me. That's what this says. Okay. Here we go. The universe. This is a map of the universe, as best they could put it together. There's 3 types of galaxies in the universe. That's it. Astronomers have put them in a category of 3. You either have an elliptical, an irregular, or a spiral. The only one that can support life is spiral galaxies, and that's because they're stable. And because of that, you can have life. Just happens to be the type of galaxy we're in. They only make up about 0.05%, maybe. So there's not, spiral galaxies are a low percentage of overall, but we happen to be in that one. Then when you look at galaxies, we just happen to be located in the perfect location within our Milky Way galaxy on the outer disk. And that's because there's a lot of stuff going on at the center of a galaxy, especially ours. You can see why they call ours a spiral galaxy, the shape of the arms. In the book, I explain it in detail, but basically what's happening is it's a lot more stable and quiet on an outer arm. As you're more internal, you've got intergalactic explosions going on, black holes, all kinds of stuff. We just happen to be in that right location. But not only that, we just happen to sit on the Perseus arm that's in the corrotation circle of the Milky Way's position on that arm. The corrotation circle, if you wanted to read more about that, is less than 3.6. Basically, if you're in a position on one of the spiral arms where the orbit's period, in other words, the speed at which the celestial body is moving, is the same as the arm's period, its speed of movement, that means you never leave it. The worst thing that can happen is a body that's positioned on an arm moves at a different speed, because what happens, it will leave and return. Well, the minute it leaves, it's now vulnerable to radiation effects, collisions, galactic black holes, all kinds of things. So we're in a spiral, we're on a quiet arm, and we move at the same rate, which completely protects us from a galaxy standpoint. And that's just a galaxy. So again, when Jim Carrey talks about, well, we're way out there, and I showed you that slide that says there's billions of galaxies, we're positioned perfectly for protection, but guess what else? Because we move at the same period, for observation. We are in the perfect position to study the universe. If it wasn't for that, we would be by clouds, just galactic clouds, we wouldn't be able to see anything. Psalm 19. God says the heavens declare the glory of God. We go, yeah, you're right, because I can see it and I can study it. So he does this over and over again. Verses like this, we breeze through. May the Lord give you increase more and more, you and your children. May you be blessed by the Lord who made heaven and earth. Even the heavens are the Lord's, but the earth he's given to the children of men. So again, billions of galaxies, all these solar systems out there, all these different systems, billions of planets, 6 billion people. God saying, no, I tell you in the Bible, the earth I gave to you, and I set it up for you. The anthropic principle. I did it so that you could know me. He doesn't care if we're in the center. He doesn't care if where we're located. He designed it this way. So that's just galaxies. And again, because of time, I'm going through a few things. The book has more. Now the solar system. This is fascinating. This is called the circumstellar habitual zone. This, again, you'll find on lesson 3.6. There's 7 unique categories that are specific about this zone. If we weren't in this zone, life couldn't exist. And we are in the perfect location for it. I'm going to show you a video in a minute that talks about it. We just happen to have the right type of orbit. It's nearly perfect circle. So what that does, it allows for stable temperature fluctuations on Earth. If we didn't have almost a perfect circle, if it was more elliptical, life couldn't exist. Jupiter's gravitational pull is greater than the Earth's. Guess what it pulls into it? Asteroids. So between Mars and Jupiter, God has put us in just the right location so we wouldn't be hit by asteroids. These things are adding up more and more. The sun, it just so happens it's not an old star, it's not a young star, it's a medium star. Because of its age and because of its specific size, it's within 1% of its luminosity and heat. If it had any more variation in that, we couldn't exist. So we have the right location, we're protected, we orbit in the right way to take advantage of it, and the sun itself is perfect for life. So we went from galaxies, now we're in the solar system. Now we're on the earth. Isaiah 45:18 says this, "Thus says the Lord who created the heavens, who is God, who formed the earth." So notice it didn't say created. This isn't the word bara, which is the word from Genesis 1:1, which means to make something out of nothing. God is saying here, he formed it, he put it together. Okay? Who established it, who didn't create it in vain, who formed it to be. This is awesome. So he's telling us in the 730 BC, the prophet's telling us, we are incredibly special. It's designed by a designer so that we can live here. Example, we talked about this last week. You'll find this in a table that is, let's see, this is lesson 3.4. Water is amazing. It's denser as a liquid than a solid, so it always floats when it freezes. You know why that's a big deal? If it didn't, everything in lakes, rivers, streams would be dead. Because every winter, everything would freeze because it would be heavier and no life could exist. By forming that layer when it floats over the top, you know what it's doing? It's like a radiator now, so that you can actually get close to the surface from underneath you and feel the heat. So it's a protective cover. Not only that, latent heat is huge. Latent heat, if there wasn't latent heat with water, a specific property, large land animals, people like us as well, couldn't survive. We sweat a certain way because of the properties of water. If it wasn't that way, we'd blow up and explode. Water is incredibly unique. Carbon, there's actually an element here that has information carrying properties. If carbon wasn't what it was, you couldn't have life because you couldn't get complex molecules. We're going to talk about this. The Earth's moon, it just happens to be the right size and at the right distance that the gravitational pull between the Earth and the moon is what causes tides. And as the Earth is moving around the sun at 23.5 degrees and it's moving around, and the moon's moving with it, it's changing periods at different points, and you've got water coming in, tides going out. So why is that important? You ever had a rain and you have in your driveway or something where water collects and it sits there? What happens to the water sitting in like a puddle after like a week if it doesn't evaporate? All slimy, gross. You know why God designed the world with tides? It regulates. The tides actually go to the bottom of the ocean and come up. It's mixing nutrients all the time. If it didn't do that, you know what would happen? We'd all die. Simple as that. There is a perfect tilt to the Earth, 23.5 plus or minus 1.2 degrees all the time. Doesn't vary off 1.2. You know why? Because if it did, you would have half the Earth would be scorched by the sun all the time, the other half would be an ice ball. So it's just 23.5 is just right, so that you get seasons, And it stays at that, so as it's moving around, it's getting exposed at different points, and you get summer, fall, winter, and spring, perfectly. And it's held in that position by the moon at the right size so that it can be at 23.5. So we went from galaxies being just right, the solar system being just right, we're inside the Earth being just right. So what can you conclude from Isaiah 45? Sounds like he designed the Earth for me. Let's watch a little video.
For Gonzalez and other astrobiologists, these factors, required for the Earth's habitability, became the focus of extensive research.
We demonstrated in dozens of different ways the laws of physics and chemistry that pertain in the laboratory anywhere on Earth apply anywhere in the solar system, apply anywhere in the galaxy, and in many cases out to the most distant galaxies that we can see.
There are indeed unchanging physical laws in the universe that apply to the entirety of the universe, that they're not localized to one place.
This consistency in the laws of physics and chemistry has led many researchers to conclude that the factors necessary for complex life on Earth are also the best parameters in the search for habitable planets elsewhere in the universe. Most serious discussions about these factors begin with the same prerequisite: liquid water.
All the searches that are being done for life elsewhere, their starting position is a terrestrial class planet with water.
It is now widely recognized that the chemical properties of water are exquisitely suited for carbon-based life. These properties include water's ability to dissolve and transport the chemical nutrients vital to all living organisms, and its unmatched capacity to absorb heat from the sun, a process critical for regulating the Earth's surface temperature. In liquid form, water is an extraordinary substance, and its existence hinges upon another factor essential to complex life: a planet's distance from its home star.
It's like what they say in real estate: location, location, location. A habitable planet lives in what we call the Goldilocks zone. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. And when I say just right, I mean just right for water.
Liquid water really helps define the habitable zone. If it's too hot, again, the water just boils away, you just can't get condensed water. It's too cold, as in Mars today, it freezes out.
Within our solar system, the habitable zone is relatively narrow, beginning well outside the orbit of Venus and ending short of the orbit of Mars. If the Earth were just 5% closer to the Sun, it would be subject to the same fate as Venus: a runaway greenhouse effect with temperatures rising to nearly 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Conversely, if the Earth were 20% farther from its home star, carbon dioxide clouds would form in its upper atmosphere, initiating the cycle of ice and cold that has sterilized Mars.
The presence of liquid water is a necessary condition for life, but it's not a sufficient condition. After all, there may be liquid water under the frozen surfaces of Mars and Jupiter's moon Europa, but there's very little chance that complex life exists in either of these places. You see, contrary to what the Copernican principle might suggest, the recipe for life is much more complex than just that water.
Okay, so this is a 12-part series. You can get them on YouTube and watch them, but I'm going to give you one more. I think it's fascinating. Jay Richards is one of the authors with Guillermo Gonzalez on The Privileged Planet, and I use that book throughout here. Let's watch the next one real quick.
If a recipe for a planet capable of supporting complex life really did exist, then what ingredients beyond liquid water might be required? A list
tectonic recycling could not take place.
The Earth's crust varies in thickness from about 4 to 30 miles. It consists of more than a dozen tectonic plates that are in constant motion. This dynamic geology regulates the planet's interior temperature, recycles carbon, mixes chemical elements essential to living organisms, and shapes the continents. Deep within the Earth's interior, the movement of liquid iron generates a protective magnetic field essential to complex life. If our planet was small, its magnetic field would be weakened, allowing the solar wind to strip away our atmosphere, slowly transforming the Earth into a dead, barren world much like Mars.
We need an oxygen atmosphere, and the oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere that the Earth has is necessary for complex life.
As seen from space, the Earth's atmosphere glows as a thin blue ribbon of light, measuring less than 1% of the planet's diameter. It is composed of a mixture of nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide. As a result, our atmosphere ensures a temperate climate, protection from the sun's radiation, and the correct combination of gases necessary for liquid water and complex life.
For a size of planet like Earth, our moon is big. The current thinking is that if our moon didn't exist, neither would we.
1/4 the size of the Earth, the moon's powerful gravitational pull stabilizes the angle of its axis at a nearly constant 23.5 degrees. This ensures relatively temperate seasonal changes, and the only climate in the solar system mild enough to sustain complex living organisms.
If we find life out there, especially complex or even intelligent life, it will be around a star similar to our own.
We orbit what is known as a spectral type G2 dwarf main sequence star. It is well suited for our needs. If the Sun were less massive, like 90% of the stars in the galaxy, the habitable zone would be smaller. To remain within its boundaries, the Earth would have to be positioned closer to its star. Here, increased gravity would lock our planet's rotation into synchronization with its orbit. While one side of the Earth continually faced the Sun and increased radiation from solar flares, the dark side of the planet would lay shrouded in perpetual cold and ice. It is unlikely complex life could tolerate these drastic extremes in temperature.
A lot of things went right on Earth to have yielded complex life, absolutely.
The number of factors that have been postulated has grown. Currently, the typical number you would see is, in a typical list, would have something like 20.
We find that we need to be at the right location in the galaxy, that we're inside the circumstellar habitable zone of the star, that we're in a planetary system with giant planets that can shield the inner planets from too many comet impacts, that we're orbiting the right kind of star. It's not too cool, we're not too hot, that we're on a planet that has a moon that can stabilize the tilt of its axis, that we're on a planet that's a terrestrial planet, a planet that has a crust that's just thick enough that it can maintain plate tectonic activity, that has enough heat in its interior that it's still circulating its liquid iron core so it can generate a magnetic field, that has an atmosphere that has enough oxygen to allow for complex organisms to survive, that has enough water and enough continents to allow for the diversity of life or an active biosphere that we need to support complex creatures such as ourselves. All these factors have to be met at one place and time in the galaxy if you're going to have a planet as habitable as the Earth, which you need for complex and even technological life.
In an attempt to estimate the probability of attaining this combination of factors simultaneously, some researchers have developed equations assigning a conservative 1 in 10 value to each factor deemed necessary for advanced life.
If every element has to be there at the same time, you have to multiply the probabilities, and that's what makes the probability at the end so small. You've got 10% of this and 10% of that, and these things rapidly multiply into exceedingly small numbers. The numbers on the order of 10 to the minus 15, which is 1/1000 or 1/1 trillion. And it's a number like that that you have to compare to the 100 billion stars that are in the galaxy. 100 billion is a very large number, but 1,000th of a trillion is much, much smaller. On their face value, these probabilities are speaking. What they're telling us is this can't happen, or this is very unlikely to happen in the galaxy. And that's where the evidence is pushing us.
There are many probabilistic resources in the galaxy, but on the other side of the coin are all these factors that you need. You have to get just right in order to have just one habitable planet like the Earth. And that leads me to conclude that yes, we're rare in the galaxy.
Isn't that crazy? Guys, it just never ends. So when we talked about Systemai and Colossians the other day, last time we talked, it was getting back to that point that there's some designer holding everything together just right. So what I'm going to do is I'll give you this one, and I'm going to jump to the end of Psalm 19 here because I want to just touch on it, and then I want you to study it this week, okay? You realize the Bible actually talks about this regulation system we have for the water cycle. In Ecclesiastes, it literally says the rivers run into the sea, but the sea never gets full. To the place from which the rivers started or came, they return again. You've got the water's coming down into the sea, evaporation's happening back to the clouds, comes back over, comes back down. So in your book, I give a full definition in lesson 3.4 of the hydrologic cycle. All right, it's using the same water over and over again. New water's being added. Okay, so I'm going to skip this one on the sun, but I got to admit, it's pretty awesome, but we're running out of time. It's all about Jesus Christ. And this is coming right out of Psalm 19. I talked about it with verses 4 to 6, right? So I'd suggest taking a look at that again. So now here we are. Now we're into the Bible. So in our book, we go into detail, but here's basically what it's saying. I wanted to simplify it for you guys. Verse 7, when it says, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul, what it really means translated in English is it's so comprehensive that it can totally transform the inner person. All right? It has the ability to convert a soul. Then, when it says the testimony of the Lord are sure, converting the wise to the converting the simple to the wise, it's literally saying it's so reliable it can take a vacillating simpleton and make him or her skilled in daily living. Okay, when you go back to Psalm 8, and it talks about, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth, you who set your glory in the heavens, out of the mouth of babes and infants, you've ordained strength. The Bible is so powerful, it can take a babe or an infant and make them wise. God's divine principles set the right path through the maze of life and cause our hearts to rejoice. The commands of God are so clear, they can bring light to darkness in every heart. They are. The Ten Commandments, you read God's laws, they're crystal clear. It's not hard to understand. Following them, keeping them in your heart makes life clear. And finally, the fear of the Lord is without blemish. It brings stability to every generation that turns to him. This is what Psalm 19, verses 7 to 9 are saying. The judgment set a path in history where every right, he'll right every wrong, and he will silence every rebel. That is going to happen. So, then David gets into why we need him. Why we need him. So if you go to Psalm 19 again and look at this, because he's spelling it out for us. Remember what he said? Who can know his errors? Cleanse me of secret faults. So that means that even when you follow the law, even when you're trying to keep to the rules, there are things you do that you don't even know you're doing. This is the problem with the religious person who thinks, if I just do the commandments, I'll be right with God. But you can't even see the speck in your eye, right? So here's a perfect example. When you look at the Bible, we look at a picture of this cycle of sin. Okay, it starts out by looking. Look what Lot did. Lot's actually in heaven. It's hard to imagine Lot's in heaven when he gave his two daughters to, well, he was willing to give his own daughters to that city, right? That righteous man, dwelling among them, tormented his righteous soul from day to day by seeing and hearing their lawless deeds. Thinking. David, it happened one evening, David arose from his bed, he walked on the roof. From the roof he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, so he sent and inquired about the woman. And someone told him, hey, isn't this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite? So someone told him, well, the woman you're looking at who's naked, actually she's married. So David sent messengers and took her. So what did he have to do to move from looking? He's thinking about what he wants to do. And then what happens? You act on your thoughts. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, it was pleasant for the eyes, desirable to make one wise, she took and ate. Thinking leading to action. And then finally, you live it. You walked in it. Solomon. He loved many foreign women, as well as the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, well, this guy's busy, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites. For so it was when Solomon was old, that his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not loyal to the Lord his God. This is what David means. Who can understand his errors? We look, then we think about it, and then we say, you know what? You justify taking action, and pretty soon that's your life. So, what do we have in America today again? A rejection of Christ as the one we follow and obey. We follow after what we see with our eyes. We live that way to the point where it doesn't even bother us anymore. This is who we are. Psalm 19 covers creation, the need to study your Bible, how it equips you to make you aware of your secret faults. Without the Bible, you don't see them because society's telling you it's okay until it gets ludicrous where a baby shows up on a table from a birth and you can kill it. See how things are going where it's okay. As a man thinks in his heart, that's who he is. So, we're studying book 2, science, but you see what science is about? It's about the Creator who has wants a personal relationship with you so that you understand who he is, so you live your life to follow him. So as we take that out of our culture, it's replaced by us believing we're God. Any questions? Does this make sense? This is Psalm 19. It's crazy. This has all of this in one psalm. So next week, what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to start now design in the animal kingdom. We're moving to our next evidence. So take a look at your syllabus, right? Take a look at those pages. We'll study that next week. Any questions before we end today? We've got a couple minutes. Anything in here that, any comments? Don't worry about what people think. Doesn't matter. As you look at this, dwell on who he is and grow closer to him. That stuff, trust me, it's going to fade away over time. You just got to get used to. You got to get used to getting hit once in a while. We're not used to, as Christians, we're used to being in church and the pastor, everybody telling us how great we are, how much he loves us, and how we need to improve ourselves. And you step outside of this cocoon, and you got a world that's hitting us. But you'll find out they're Nerf balls. They didn't do any damage as you study the Word of God. Okay.